guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jag, and in today's class we are going to continue with our grade 10 math content. Today we are continuing with the quadratic formula and how to use it. And with that, let's get started. Okay, I'm going to pick a question from the textbook, so something simple here. It says use the quadratic formula to solve, express your answers as exact roots and as approximate roots rounded to the nearest hundredth. Okay. And again, the hundredth is going to be 2 decimal places. Usually teachers are okay if you want to round it to 1 decimal place, and make sure you just check with your teacher on that. All right, so I'm going to pick a question from the textbook here. All right, again, make sure you have your calculator handy. Okay, so let's try this one. Okay, so it is 3x squared plus 14x plus 5, and it's equal to 0. Okay. What I usually have students do is write out the A, B, and C values on the side, and that's actually just so you don't get confused with the signs, okay? So this is the A value here, and I can see in this example, everything is positive. So the A value is 3, the B value is 14, okay? And this is the C value is positive 5. So it's good if you actually write it down on the side, okay? And that way, again, if there's a negative sign, make sure you're taking the sign in front of the number, okay? I'm going to write out the quadratic formula here. So negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a, okay? And what I wanted to just emphasize here is that you do have to memorize the quadratic formula. The teacher will not give this to you on a quiz or a test, okay? So what we're going to do is basically just plug in our numbers for A, B, and C into the quadratic formula. Okay, so I'm going to plug it in here. So negative 14, because this is negative b, I'm going to do 14 squared minus 4, okay, times the value of A, which is 3, times the value of C, which is 5. Okay, and remember to put the whole thing for this is the numerator, and the denominator is 2 times A, which is 3. Okay? So again, make sure the numerator is the whole part of the equation on the top, and the denominator is only 2A. Alright? So let's write out what we have here. Okay, I'm going to write it on this side here. Okay, so negative 14 plus or minus, and then let's just do 14 squared. So 196. Minus, okay, and for AC, I'm just going to multiply all these numbers together. So 4 times 3 times 5, which is 60 over 6. Okay, does everyone see that? Okay, and now you can actually just write out your values here. Okay, I'm going to do 196 minus 60, and I'm going to take the square root of that answer. Okay, so let's write it basically on this side here. Okay, I'm going to just take this part out, okay, because we already wrote it down. Okay, and what it ends up being, so I'll just put x equals, so negative 14 plus or minus 11.66 divided by 6, okay? And the reason, again, I just took 2 decimal places here, okay? The question says you should be rounding your answer to the nearest hundredth, which is 2 decimals, okay? So we're going to try and keep it accurate here. Okay, so one more time, we're doing 196 minus 60, and then I press the square root sign on my calculator. So it's actually the square root of 136, okay? So now there are going to be 2 answers here. I know that there are 2 answers for x because there is plus or minus in between these 2 numbers. So the first time I'm going to do negative 14 plus 11.66 divided by 6, okay? Again, when you're using the quadratic formula, the reason you use it is because you're going to get a decimal answer for your x-intercepts, okay? And I can't factor that. So negative 14, and then we're going to do plus 11.66, okay? And divided by, okay, divided by 6 here, okay? I'm going to put negative 0.39. On the other side, I'm going to do negative 14 minus 11.66. divided by 6, okay? And again, just put it on your calculator, okay? Make sure you're not rounding until the very end. And we're getting negative 4.28, okay? So I'm rounding that to the nearest hundredth. If you are actually using the x-intercepts to graph out your answer, you should round it to the nearest tenth, okay? Because it's easier to graph it as well, all right? And remember, when you're graphing the parabolas, again, it is almost like a sketch. Try to make it as accurate as possible. Okay, are there any questions here? Okay, that looks good. Let's move on to the next type of question here. Okay, so I'm gonna take this off. Okay, and in the next question, I'm looking at it, and it looks like this quadratic function is in the vertex form, okay? So it says, let me read it out loud here, okay? So for each quadratic relation, state the coordinates of the vertex and the direction of opening, then determine how many x-intercepts the relation has, okay? So let's try this question here. Okay, so it's y equals x minus 3 squared, and it is plus 2, okay? This is actually the vertex form, okay? And how I know is I have the brackets and it's squared. There's a number outside as well, okay? When I'm looking for the vertex from the vertex form, okay? Whatever you see inside the brackets, I have x minus 3. This is the x point of the vertex. So I'm going to put positive 3, okay? What you see outside the brackets is the y point of the vertex. And I can see that it's positive 2. Okay, so for the y point of the vertex on the outside, I'm not going to change the sign. I'm only changing the sign for whatever's inside the brackets, which is the x point of the vertex. So this is my vertex right away. Okay, I didn't have to show any work for this. The vertex is 3 and 2. And that's actually one of the reasons why you would change a quadratic function into the vertex form, is so you can easily graph it out. All right. And it also says the direction of opening. So I'm just going to put opening here. Okay, so now if you look in front of the x minus 3 squared, there's actually no negative sign in front. And this actually tells me that it is positive, and this parabola is opening upwards. Okay, does everyone see that? And maybe we'll try one example where there is a negative sign in front, just so you can see the difference. Okay? All right, and the last part says, determine how many x-intercepts the relation has. Okay, so we're going to try it on this side here. Whenever you're doing the x-intercept, you're going to plug in y as 0, okay? And I always write this out. I always put x-intercept, y equals 0. That way, again, the teacher can see exactly what you're doing and follow along as well, okay? So we're going to plug in the 0 for this equation. So x minus 3 squared, okay, plus 2. Now what we're going to do is we're basically solving for the x value, okay? And it just says determine how many x-intercepts there are. I don't actually even have to solve for the exact value for the x-intercepts. So I'm going to take this positive 2 to the other side, and it becomes negative 2. And then x minus 3 squared, okay? So just like this, okay? Now, if you're looking, I need to get rid of the squared sign here. And how you do that is by taking the square roots on both sides. So just like this, okay? That gets rid of the squared on this side right here. You see how it's squared? And I'm going to write down what we're left with. We're left with square root negative 2 equals x minus 3. Does everyone see that? And again, I'm not going to solve for the x-intercepts. It just says how many x-intercepts are there. And again, I notice when I'm trying to take the square root of negative 2 on my calculator, it's going to show up as an error. I cannot take the square root of a negative number, okay? So anytime you see something like this, I'm going to put, therefore, there are no x-intercepts, okay? So again, whenever you have that negative underneath the square root sign, okay, there are no x-intercepts, okay? And again, what that means is, maybe you could just like draw a really quick sketch here, okay? I'm going to make sure it's on the board, okay? What I'm going to draw out here or graph out is the vertex, which is 3 and 2, okay? So the x is 3 and the y is 2. This is the vertex, okay, of my parabola. I know that it's opening upwards. Now again, I don't need to actually accurately graph this out. I'm just going to show you that it's opening like this, upwards, okay? That's actually where, if I accurately graph out the parabola, that's basically where the parabola will be found. It's going to be found in the first quadrant. And what you should notice here is that the parabola does not intersect here the x-intercepts or the x-axis, and therefore this parabola doesn't have any x-intercepts. Okay, I can see that it's somewhere up in the air in the first quadrant. It does not intersect the x-axis. And this is basically how I show it algebraically, because I'm taking the square root of a negative number, and therefore there are no x-intercepts in this case. Does everyone see that? And if you're not sure, I would maybe sketch out the graph, okay, just to make sure that you're verifying your answer. Okay, so with that, let's try one more example. And what we're going to try is a question that has a negative sign in front. So I'm just going to take this off here. Okay, and we're going to keep the x-intercept on this side. Okay, so let me pick a question here. So let's try this one. So I have y equals negative 2, and it's x plus 3 squared, okay, minus 1. So just like this, okay. Again, this is the vertex form. So I'm going to write out my vertex. So the vertex again, the x point of the vertex is inside the brackets. It's x plus 3. I'm going to change the sign. So it's going to be negative 3. Whatever you see outside the brackets, okay, I see negative 1. Do not change the sign, okay, for the number outside the brackets. I'm going to keep it as negative 1. Okay, again, make sure you are remembering this, okay, just say it out loud a few times. Change the sign inside the brackets, okay, but not outside the brackets. All right, so this is my vertex and the direction of opening, okay. So now you see outside the x plus 3 squared, I have negative 2. Okay, so don't look at the 2 right now. I'm just looking at this negative sign. And because there is a negative sign here, I know that my parabola is opening downwards. Okay, does everyone see that? I'm going to just underline it right here. It is a negative sign. It's not the actual number 2, like negative 2. It's just the negative sign I'm looking for. Okay, and that tells you the direction of opening of the parabola. Okay, and then the last step here, determine how many x-intercepts this relation has. So let's just write it out here one more time. So I have negative 2 and then x plus 3 squared minus 1. Okay, so because I'm looking for the x-intercept, okay, I am going to plug in the 0 for the y. Okay, so x plus 3 squared minus 1. Okay, the first step is basically, because I'm solving for the x value here, I'm going to take this negative 1 to the other side, and it becomes positive 1. Okay, and then keep everything else the same. Okay, just like this. All right, and in the next step, okay, before I can take the square root on both sides, I have to actually make sure I'm dividing it by negative 2. And when you do that, this negative 2 cancels out. Okay, does everyone see that? All right, so I'm left with, on the left side, I have negative 1/2. Okay. So let's write one step in here, okay? So I have negative 1/2 equals x plus 3 squared, okay? And again, to get rid of the squared sign here, I'm going to take the square roots on both sides, and this cancels out. However, again, if you notice on the left side here, okay, I have a negative 1/2, and I'm trying to take, again, a negative, the square root of this negative 1/2. On your calculator, it's going to show up as an error, okay? Which means, again, that there are no x-intercepts. Okay? And again, when there are no x-intercepts, I can't actually even solve for the value of x, okay? Because on my calculator, it's just an error. Okay, so that's all you need to write, that there are no x-intercepts, okay? If there is a question where you get the x-intercepts, that just means that the parabola is intersecting the x-axis. All right, so yeah, that looks good. Okay, and again, make sure you're doing a lot of practice questions from the textbook. And if you do have any questions, I have a new email, because this is math that we are doing here. You can actually email me at askyourmathquestions@gmail.com. All right, so if there are no questions, that brings this video to an end. Thank you for watching. Please make sure you do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And I will see everyone next time. Thanks. Bye.